Good evening, everyone. Oh, what a privilege it is to be here together with you. It's Mother's Day. I hope you all had a wonderful day, fun day. And tonight, I want to just welcome every single one of you. And I hope you're going to share this on every link that you possibly can. But first of all, I want to introduce our amazing panel who's going to do great things tonight. We have Tio, and then we have Tess, and we have Ollie, we have Marianne, and we have Yolandi, and she's going to be leading us in worship right now. And I just love her worship. So Yolandi, I'm going to hand over to you.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. The song that I'm going to do tonight is called The Blessing by Elevation Worship and Carrie Job. So if you want to go Google the lyrics, that it's The Blessing by Elevation Worship. And basically the reason why I'm doing this song is mainly because of the lyrics of the bridge. It says, "May his favor be upon you in 1,000 generations, and your family and your children and their children and their children and children and children and children and more children." So basically, I thought it was so fitting for Mother's Day. I don't think there's anything more powerful than a praying mom. And I always feel like moms always want blessings for their kids more than they want for themselves. And I think it's something that a mom always pray for is more than anything is for their children to be blessed. But tonight I want to sing it over the mothers, that not only is your children blessed and favored, but you are favored, and his favor is upon you as well. Not just your family and your children. And so that's just what I want to sing over you guys tonight. And it continues saying, he is before us, behind us, all around us, with us always. So yeah, I just want to sing that over all the mothers. We love you all and we appreciate you. And also to my mom, she's sitting right over there. Happy Mother's Day, I love you. All right, so here we go.
Shine upon, be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. Amen. 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 Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon, be gracious to you. Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. Amen. Amen. May his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family and your mothers and their mothers and their mothers. May his presence go before you and behind you and beside you, all around you and within you. He is with you. He is with you in the morning, in the evening, in your coming, and your going, in your weeping and rejoicing. He is for you. 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 Not against you. He is for you, 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 not against you. May his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations. Your family and their children and their children. May his presence go before you, behind you and beside you, all around you and within you. He is with you. He is with you in the morning, in the evening, in your coming, in your going, in your weeping and rejoicing. He is for you. 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 Not against you. And he loves you. 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 Oh, now, amen, 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 Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon, be gracious to you. Lord, turn his face towards you and give you. Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon you, be gracious to you. May he turn his face towards you and always give you peace. Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon you, be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. Amen.
Andy, what a privilege it is to have had Yolandi worship for us. And I want to say, Yolandi, you make me so proud. I remember you as a little girl coming into our church, and you're a daughter of this house, and you've grown up absolutely awesome, absolutely awesomely. And but tonight, you know, as Yolandi was singing, I was thinking about a woman. We give birth, right? We bring forth birth. And that scripture, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him won't perish but have everlasting life. As a mother, it's the easiest thing to give, isn't it? We want to give to our children all the time. I know, and we want to give to our grandchildren, and we want to give to everybody. There's inside of us, there's a necessity to give birth to different things in our life, and we give birth. And we've been so proud of our son, and then Heather came along, and the three grandchildren, and we've seen how our giving birth to a son has brought forth such tremendous blessing in our generation. And that's what Yolandi was speaking about. But there's fruit. Out of every bit of giving, there's always fruit. And the Bible says, give, and it shall be given unto you. And you know what? He's going to not just give it to us for little bits, but good measure. Press down. He's going to shake it together. You know how we take a flour, and you're trying to get flour into a bin that just doesn't want to take the last bit. And you take that bin and you shake it, and then you pour it on top so you can get the lid on. Now that's the way God wants, and then it still runs over when you put the lid on. Anybody had that? I've had that happen to me as a woman. And so that's the way God wants to give. And so I'm going to give you an opportunity, and we've seen how people have been amazing. I'm going to give you the opportunity to give tonight, to give to in the offering, and to give to our Project Hope, an amazing feeding scheme, and going out into the city, and being so many families, and Marianne and Lance with the ACDP. She was saying behind her, you don't want to know what's there, because they're all getting ready to give again tomorrow. And the heart of a woman is to give. Giving comes easily. And so we're going to put on the line, online, there's going to be details. If you want to take part in this giving, just do that right now. And if you want to give to Project to Hope, the detail, or you can still put it in the church account, but just say coronavirus relief, so that we know what your giving is going to. But right now, I'm going to hand over to another amazing daughter of this house, who also grew up here as a little girl. And I want to say to you, Tio Pretorius, you make me proud. You was just one amazing lady, and she's going to be our hostess tonight.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the service. I hope you can hear me. Thank you for joining us this evening. And we have a wonderful group of women on our panel. We have a stepmom, we have a mother-in-law, we have a mom, we have a daughter, and each of these women will be sharing their story. So stay tuned and also ask us some questions. We'd love to answer the questions. I just want to remind you who the winners were this morning. And the winners of the competition were Michelle Vosloo. She won a necklace she won it from the draw. And then we also had Yolandi, who just did worship, who had the most shares, and she won, as well as Brent van die Kerk. So congratulations again to the winners on that competition. So right now I'm going to hand over to a woman that we all know, most of us know her, and she's a mom of daughters and granddaughters, and she's going to share a bit of her story, and she'll be open for your questions. Pastor Marianne.
Hello, everybody. So great to have people watching, and I hope that I've got everybody watching us tonight, because this is Women's Day going live, and we're talking about the things that make us tick. And one of the things that really makes a woman tick is to give birth to children. But I know that I gave birth to two beautiful daughters, but I lost one in death. And then I adopted another one. So I've got Heather, who's my adopted child. We never talk about as being adopted, but we adopted her into our hearts. And we've got Charlene, birthed from the family. And I love my daughters. I know there were many nights as a mother that I would sit with them, hoping that the fever would break. praying over this, them singing over them. Well, I remember with Heather, she was a very difficult baby when she came to us, and she cried a lot. And I would sit nights through on the rocking chair singing little songs to her until she calmed down enough for me so that I could go on with, just so that I can go and sleep. But being a mother doesn't change who you really are. Isn't it fantastic? You're still this woman on the inside. You don't change. You still want to look good. You want to feel good, and you want to do good. And being a mother just actually adds to that. And I thank God, Pastor Mariana said earlier on, mothers are givers. And this is what we do. We give our bodies for babies to be born from our bodies. And then we give our lives and our nights, and we give our food, and we give our makeup eventually, if you've got little girls like me, because that's what they do. They get into your makeup, and then they get into your clothes, and then they get into your habits, and they do certain things. That's all about what mommy does. And I'm thankful today that I've got a mother that I could follow in the way that I dress, the way that I act in certain things. And my children are doing similarly, and I'm watching how they've blossomed. And so I'm a very proud mother, but I'm even more proud of the fact that both my daughters have daughters, and they are gorgeous. And what am I seeing in both my granddaughters, Isabella and Tatiana, have become little ladies. Nobody had to tell them. Nobody had to teach them. They're just there. I remember when Isabella was in my makeup when we were in England, and she took my pink lipstick and she smeared her face like this with pink lipstick. Because you know what? She's preparing to be a woman one day. Tatiana's into the dressing business now. And I see how our girls have become real women. And I want to compliment you tonight. If you're a mother and you've got daughters and you've trained them up in the fear of the Lord and you taught them good skills, then you deserve a big compliment, because you have done very well. And the evidence would be in your granddaughters. Hello?
Pastor Marianne, if we can ask you a question. If there's one piece of advice you would like to give to mothers during this difficult time of lockdown now, what would that be for mothers raising children, raising daughters right now in lockdown? Maybe even facing difficult situations.
Oh, yes. There's a lot of mommies that's been really, really challenged now. Just cleaning the house every day. That wasn't what most of them did. And so suddenly it's become a real, not easy chore. And then being homeschool mommies, that's become so difficult. Every day sitting, homeschooling your children, it takes hours out of your day. And then to plan the supper again, and then to clean the dishes again, and do the washing and the ironing and everything. And I think my advice is stay calm and find a chill place. Just, you know, one of my friends said there's a room in the house. And when lockdown happened, she sat the people down in the house. She said, I am telling you, this room is my private space. And when I go in there, nobody calls mommy. Nobody asks me anything. I need my 10 minutes private space. And maybe you need to find a chair. You need to find a space out there where you just say, it is my private space for breathing. And otherwise, you know what I believe in? I really believe we need to take this time of lockdown. What a historical time in the life of us. We most probably will never have this again, but make memories. I remember one woman once said, every moment with your family should be a memory moment. So this is the time that you can gather them and do little things and make memories. Forget the bad times, ignore them. They come and they go, but the good times, they will last.
Pastor Marianne, you also have a daughter overseas, and your grandchildren are there abroad, and your grandchildren right now, many grandparents aren't seeing their grandchildren. Now, you've experienced this with your one daughter living abroad, and also now during lockdown time. What is your advice for grandparents during lockdown, during this time?
Actually, Heather is watching. Hi, Heather. Isabella and Noah. So great to have them watching. I thank God for technology, eh? Technology changed the world. I would love to touch them. And oh man, Heather and I can do coffee shops, eh? We know Costa Coffee and Costa Coffee and Cake. We love it, but we can't have it now. But we talk about it. You see, we've made many memories. I think the coolest thing is when you've got a memory that you can refer to, you actually have a life up ahead. And so Heather and I, we've made many memories, sat down in many coffee shops, had long chats about nothings, and same with Charlene and Tatiana. So I think this is the season where you need to take the memory book out and just page the pages and just remind each other of the good times and not think about what you could have done and not have done and would have done. And oh, you're so sorry you didn't do it. Let's go for the good memories.
Now, before I introduce our next lady on the panel, I just want to ask our panel of women if you have a question for Pastor Mariana at this time. Tess, Ollie, Pastor Mariana, if you have a question for her right now, you can tell us what it is, or we're going to move on to Ollie. Anybody? No, I think they're quiet at this point. Thank you so much, Pastor Marianne. Please feel free to chip in and to ask questions and to share some of your advice as we continue on the panel. Ollie, you are a stepmom and also a mom. So we would like to ask you, Ollie, to share some of your story, and then we'll ask some questions. Ollie, please come on live.
Hi, good evening, everyone. As you've heard, my name is Ollie. I'm married. I've got 2 boys. My biological son, he's turning 8 in the next week on Wednesday. And my bonus child, he turned 20 last month. I remember when I first met him, he was a few months shy from turning 16. And you can imagine at the age of 16, we've all been 16. You're confused about life. You're confused about, and you think the world is stupid. And then you meet this lady, and then your dad tells you, oh, she's going to be part of the family permanently. So I can only imagine what that poor child went through. But you know what? In the 4 years that I've gotten to know him, the one thing that I've actually realized is that whatever you put into the relationship is what you will get out. So for me, what worked for me, my relationship and my stepson's relationship is that I made a conscious decision to actually fully participate in our relationship. So for me, I needed, in order for me to fully function in the relationship and be me, I needed to take the step word out of it. So this is not something that it's been proven to work for my relationship. So in order for me to be part of it, I needed to stop looking at myself or at him as my stepson and look at him as my child, so that when I am in a situation with him, I'm actually interacting with my child. And that is the thing that I think helped our relationship over the course of the 4 years. For instance, my husband, the 2 of us, we became a team, and we made it very clear to the kids that we're a team. So there was no chance of, for instance, if something happened and I would go, wait till your dad gets home. It was from the get-go, it was never a case of your child is your child, my child is my child. We became one family, and we became a team to the kids. We were always we confronted every situation in the family as a team. So when we became a family, when we got married, the kids understood that as a family, this is how we deal with things. So I think for myself, that is the thing that worked the most for us as a family, and for our relationship, myself and his relationship. And as a result of that, I was able to fully love him, fully accept him, and he could do the same for me, coming from a case of mom and son, and I fully understand and I accepted the fact that I will not take his mother's place in his life or in his heart, but I am the mother figure in his life at home every day. And I think also the fact that he respects his father so much, I think that for me just spilled over onto our relationship. The respect that he has and the relationship that he has with his father sort of spilled over into our relationship. So I must give credit to my husband. He actually did a very good job raising his son, so there was when I met him, there was a very respectful relationship between the 2 of them. So when I came in, it wasn't starting from scratch, and I didn't come in guns blazing in terms of, you will do what I tell you, I am the mother of this house. But we sort of met each other at a point where he looked at me as with the respect that he had for his father. So it made it, for the two of us, a good transition. And also it helped in terms of communication and also discipline. I mean, when you go into a relationship with a man that has a child, I mean, everyone, everybody that loves you, that cares about you, will tell you, you need to know your place. You must remember everything you say and do, can and will be used against you. And that's all very good advice. And I took it as from a place where it was coming. But in order for me to be able to participate in the relationship, I needed for myself to take the word step out of it and just fully go. And anyone that knows me will tell you, a friend of mine always says to me, it's everything with you. It's always black or white. There's never gray space. And there really isn't. So if I love you, I love you. I don't have boxes for anything in my life. If I'm in, I'm in, or if I'm out, I'm out. So in order for me to have been able to participate fully in our relationship as mother and son, we had to become mother and son. In my head, I had to actually get myself to that point where I see him as my son. And ever since I switched over to that, our relationship just has blossomed, I must say.
So, Ollie, now as the mum in the house, how did you facilitate sort of the relationship between your son and this new son that you're bringing into your life, as well as your son and this new husband that you're bringing into your life? How did you manage that sort of new dynamic?
Mm. Surprisingly, well, not surprisingly, the eldest child, eldest child, he's a very, very sweet boy, and my child is also very, very sweet, the youngest. So the two of them, it was the weirdest thing ever. When something is meant to be, it just happens. They really just gelled. I mean, I don't remember, and you'll be around. You know how kids are, and they'll bicker, and then get out of my room. I don't want to see you. But it's literally just a case of siblings rivalry. It was never I don't remember a time where we had to sort of formalize it and be like, this is your brother and this is you guys must love each other, and you know what I mean? It just, when we introduced them to each other, when my husband introduced me to his son, my son was there, and we were sort of like, that was the only kind of introduction that really happened, if I think about it. And ever since then, we got married, and then they started spending time together, and they share everything. They really, really love each other, and are there for each other. So I, I can't really say when it happened or how it gelled, if it makes sense. They just gelled.
That just sounds wonderful, Ali. But there are so many stepmoms out there watching, and maybe they're having a difficult time adjusting. Maybe they're, even in this lockdown period, struggling with that relationship, or maybe it's a new relationship. What is your best, the one thing that you would give them and say to give them hope, or to help them to make it work in this time, or to make it work in general?
Yeah.
What would your advice be to these
Yeah.
stepmoms?
What I've realized with my own walk is that every child just needs love. Every single child. There is not a child in this world that would refuse love. So take away everything that you've been told, everything that you've seen on TV, because TV makes us see things, and just make a conscious decision that you are going to love this child unconditionally. And if everything that you do towards this child, around this child, everything that you do in your house, if it comes from a place of love, the child will feel it. He will know it. He will understand it. And even when you get to a point where you have to reprimand the child, it will be coming from a place of love. And the child will understand that mom, or whatever the child calls you, is telling me no because they love me. She's telling me no because she's looking out for me, and my thing, I never wanted to be my stepson's cool parent. I that wasn't my intention. What I wanted is to have a healthy relationship with him. And the foundation of that for me was always, if I love my husband, there's no ways that I could not love his child. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't, you can't separate the two. So you have to, with the same love and respect that you have for your husband, will just genuinely or just spill over to the child. And if the child can feel that, then you've won the battle, because everything else will just bounce off that, and you'll be ahead of the game.
Oh, thank you. Ollie, I see there's a question here. Does it help, as Jesus said, his family was those who belonged to him? As family, we are brothers and sisters in Christ. So you as a family see yourself as one in Christ. I'm just getting a lot of comments here of good wisdom. Thank you. And people are really grateful for that wisdom. Thank you, Ollie. Before we move on to our next lady on the panel, is there anybody else, Pastor Marianne, Pastor Mariana, Tess, is there a question for Ollie from your side? Any questions, ladies? We're waiting to see if they've switched their mics off. Okay, well, I think they're silent for now. Thank you so much, Ollie. That was wonderful. Please stay online so that if any questions come through, we can just give them to you. And please ask questions when the other ladies speak. So, Tess, there's a question. Tess says there is a question. Tess, would you please just come on live and just tell us what that question is? Because I can't seem to see it on my side.
Tanya has a question.
Tanya has a question.
Yes.
Oh, there it is. Tanya, okay, Pastor Marianne, please ask your question.
Okay, to Ollie, I actually like what you said, that if it's born out of love, it changes how you do it. But having a stepchild, what are the type of confrontations you have, and how do you handle that as a mother?
I'll give you an example. He matriculated last year and he wasn't sure where he wanted to go with this. And don't tell my husband I said this. Him and his father are exactly the same. So whenever they get stuck into a sort of a disagreement, they both just go like on different sides of the world. And I was able to come in and sit him down and sort of explain to him that, look, the reason your dad is pushing so hard for this and not for the other is because, well, we obviously want you to make a good living out of yourself, for yourself, and we want you to have a good future. And we expect you with that to actually go the direction that we sort of, gently pushing him, as all parents do. But in that moment, I managed to calm him down because it's the way that we speak. You don't. For me, it works when there's a disagreement. Then the two of us, I always pull him to the side, and then I'll say to him, "Okay, talk to me. What's happening?" So we have that kind of relationship where I can actually tap him on the shoulder and be like, okay, be straight with me. What's happening? So for me, it's helped a bit that, I step out of the straight and narrow way. This is what you'll do because I have told you to do it. And even though I will eventually direct him in the direction of what his father has said, but I always try and meet him at the point of, I hear you. So where do we go from here? So that's what helps for me. That's what resolves our issues. I don't know if that answers your
question. I think that's a wonderful answer. Thank you so much, Ollie. Pastor Mariana, are you happy? I don't know if we're going to be able to see.
I think she's a great, fantastic stepmom, and I'm so glad she's not step, but she's mom. I do believe in that. With Heather even, we never call Heather our adopted daughter. She's adopted into our hearts, but we never call her. And even when she inherits the same as her sister because there's no difference. And I like this. When we don't make a difference between two children, we're actually just growing so fast in the Lord, and our families can do so well. I think that's a great answer. Thank you.
Yes, it is a wonderful answer. And today, as I was driving, somebody on the radio actually said, a special shout out to all the moms who are raising children they didn't give birth to. And I think that's a wonderful shout out to give. And right now, I'm going to hand over to Pastor Mariana to share her special story, and then we can ask her questions. Pastor Mariana, you're back on.
Yeah, it's a privilege for me to be here tonight because I'm a mom. I'm a mom of a whole church, and I've got lots of daughters out there as well. But I'm a granny, and I was a child. And tonight I just want to shortly, this weekend, I got confirmation of a fact in my mother's life that caused one of the most phenomenal women that was ever born, the most talented. I can only thank her that she equipped me to be a woman. She taught me how to dress. She taught me how to work. She taught me so many things. But she came out of such hurt. And that hurt she never really dealt with in her heart. And she tried to put a lid on it. The hurt was that her own mother, took her own life because she just couldn't face the future. And she buried that. As a little 11-year-old, she became a mother. And she took on her 2 younger children and as siblings. And she raised those 2 siblings, went back to her father, who was not the best father at all, which was the reason the mom had gone the way she had. But became one phenomenal woman. And her life was so changed by when she met Jesus. And I want to thank God for my upbringing and for the equipping I received from her. But there was a funny stage in my life, and this is where we go through seasons. Seasons are strange things, aren't they? And when we moved to Port Elizabeth, a few years after we'd been here, my mother, she was in her 60s, moved to Port Elizabeth. And so suddenly I had a mom staying here with me. We'd moved to PE years and years before that. And I became the daughter that looked after her. Now, as a child, I was the daughter that clashed with her the most. Somehow, I was a daddy's girl. I must be just honest. I had such an amazing relationship with my dad. But suddenly I was the daughter that was looking after my mom. And after a few years, I was sitting in my mother's room when suddenly I had to make a switch. And I was talking to my mother. And in my head, I knew that I had become the mother and my mother had become the child. Because unfortunately, in her old age, and I really believe it's because she buried her childhood, never really dealt with it. She buried that. I became the mother. And it was a very strange season for me. And I had to make some decisions. And then eventually brought my sister in to help me. That was so difficult. But I remember the emotions I went through. And I know that these people on our panel, these people in our church, whose mothers have suddenly they've become the mother, and the child, and they are now mother to the mother. And it's a weird place to get to when you start mothering your mother. But you know what? It's a season of grace. And I was so blessed to have been the one to walk my mother through that, make some hard decisions, very hard decisions, because and I had to make decisions on her behalf that she in the natural would not have taken. But when I sat at her bedside in the Provincial Hospital, and I sat there for so long, and so many thoughts went through my mind as I looked at my mom that day as she'd gone to heaven. And thank God her and my dad both gave their lives to Jesus. And that had made such a difference. But in spite of that, she'd not dealt with the trauma as an 11-year-old. That trauma eventually in her old age took her life over and affected her mind and her thinking and her emotions and everything that she was. And we do not, I do believe that when we guard our hearts, senility doesn't need to be part of our lives. Smile, Pal Rabbit always says she believes that speaking in tongues is the secret to never going, to never becoming senile. But whatever that is, that's an opinion. But it was an interesting season. It really was. And when you become the mother and your mother becomes the child, and I want to salute tonight, I want to say to the daughters who tonight have mothers that have become the children, my heart goes out to you. I know it's not an easy place to be. I know that it's the hardest thing to work with somebody who once was one phenomenal woman and equipped you for life. And suddenly she is the child. And so, yeah, that's what my heart goes out to those women tonight. Tio?
Yes. Pastor Mariana, how did you cope with this situation? What was, if there's somebody who's facing that right now, a lot of people's parents, they can't even see them. They're in old age homes or wherever they are and they don't have access to them. And also you had this experience. What is your advice to people who are currently making that transition, how to cope with that situation? Coping mechanism in that relationship.
I hear you. I sat across the table from somebody in our church a few years ago, and they were facing this whole thing. And how do they, it's my mother, and how do I make decisions? And it's to allow God to, in your mind, to make the shift. When that day in my mother's house, when it was like something went like this, and I became the mother and my mother became the child. And I said, God, now you're going to have to give me wisdom. Now you're going to have to give me strength as every step now, because right now I cried that day, as I went home in my car. It was a very emotional moment as I had to make that shift in my head. But from that moment, I was able to be compassionate with my mother and almost treat her like a little child. I became very impatient. Oh my word, there were times where I did lose it with my mother. And it's that realness that I've been able to help other people with, because you will. It's a very emotional time. And sometimes your emotions do want to take over, because they will say things and they will live in a world that is just one lie and come out with things that are shocking in the natural. And for a daughter to watch that and just stay is not always so easy. But I am so glad that I had a Heavenly Father. And I had people that prayed with me, that stood with me. I had a support group. We have to be with people that we can be real with and that we can just really talk to. And when we do that, it just does help. Yeah.
Thank you, Pastor Mariana. Is there anybody from the panel who would like to ask Pastor Mariana a question right now before we move on to Tess, who will also be speaking to us about her unique situation? Anybody from the panel? We give them a moment to turn off their mics. All right. Okay, so we're just going to keep you there, Pastor Mariana. And I had people saying, thank you so much. Stephanie Mini was saying, amazing testimony, Pastor Mariana. I think I hear Pastor Mariana there. Pastor Mariana, would you like to ask a question?
I think I'm the only one. I'm the only one asking questions in this place tonight. But I'm just wanting to ask Mariana, when you actually had to take over to become the mother, because remember now I'm very much in the same boat. and I have to make decisions for my mother as if she's my daughter. Now, my mom's almost 90 and it is really tricky. But didn't you feel sometimes disrespectful?
Oh, Marianne, you have no idea how many times I would leave my mother's flat so ashamed of myself and cry and say, sorry, God, I should never have spoken to my mom like that. And the day I had to make the decision, which was really the hardest thing, I got hold of my sister and I said, we are going to have to move my mother out of this flat. She is going to burn the whole block of flats down. And you know, when you are now the mother making that decision for your mother, and your mother will not move, I will not go into the story of how we managed to do that. And I just want to thank the person that helped me. Because there was somebody that helped me so emotionally and actually in a way that was practical to get that thing done. But yes, we had to move my mom, and we took her to a frail care center where she was able to be looked after.
Thank you, Pastor Mariana. Thank you for sharing that testimony. We have so much feedback. I'll give it a bit later, but right now we're going to go over to another lovely woman on our panel. And tonight we have Tess speaking to us about her experience. Tess, you're live.
Hi, everybody. As you can see in the background, I'm actually still at work. Very social distanced from everybody else, but this is the reality of my Mother's Day every year for the last couple of years. So for me, with Mother's Day, now being a mother as well, it's just been so different. I'm so used to working. I mean, I didn't grow up with a mom. My mom left when I was 13. So when I got married, and I had to get to a place where, like, okay, I have to meet my husband's parents, and coming from a very unique background, and he has such a good family background. We always make jokes that his family is like real life modern family. His parents are divorced, but they get along so well. It was just something for me to take in. And I realized, and it's something that I'm writing off what Ollie mentioned, you know, we have so many perceptions putting in our mind concerning mother-in-laws, stepsons, stepkids, stepmoms, all these sort of things. I mean, they even made a movie called Monster-in-Law. So, you know, I must admit I was a little bit, it was a very big adjustment. And I must say that, you know, God really knows. God knows what you need. And I must say that I'm really blessed. It's very difficult to talk about because I know not every person is in that situation, but I have a wonderful relationship with my mother-in-law. I mean, she steps in and helps with the kids when we have to work because, you know, we're in business and it requires our time. She makes sure, like I know that there's a Mother's Day surprise waiting for me at home because she's put the effort in and we balance things out. I never have to feel like I must come tell her she can't do this for the kids, she can do this for the kids. I trust her. Like we have a beautiful trust relationship. And you know, I really wanted to share the story because I realized not all of us have that. I mean, I've heard many stories from friends where they have difficult relationships with their mother-in-laws. I mean, you know, and especially if your husband is the star child of the house. Yeah, and I realized that mothers in turn, because now I have a son, I'm one day going to be a mother-in-law, and I have to pay it forward. I have to pay the grace that was given to me forward to my son's wife one day. And I realized, you know, even though he's so young, I think about, you know, one day I'm going to have to let go of my child. And I want to encourage every woman listening to this, if you have a difficult relationship with your mother-in-law, firstly, if you are born again believer, you can break that whole mentality of monster-in-law, break the walls you know, what the world says is supposed to be like. Break that whole thing, because we're born again, we are new creation. This is a new way, it's a new system. We can do things differently. And then secondly, I would say that, you know, approach the situation. If you do have a difficult relationship now, approach it with grace. Approach it with grace. I think of the story of Ruth, how, you know, she followed her mother-in-law, even though she lost her husband, and she took on the ways of her mother-in-law. And that was such a beautiful story of honor. And through that, Ruth received a great blessing. So I understand that there is a blessing for me when I honor my mother-in-law for who she is and the role she played in my husband's life. Because sometimes we have to be a little bit real that we can sometimes be the problem. And sometimes it's our perception, because we play victim, that can mess things up. So start somewhere with mending the relationship, but it takes a change of mindset and a change of heart.
So Tess, tell us, what is one of the practical ways in which you can honor your mother-in-law? What are the practical ways in which you sort of help that relationship or better that relationship? Are there any sort of tips you can give to those women who have mother-in-laws and who might be struggling right now?
Well, for me, I think with my mother-in-law, I built relationships apart from just being her son's wife. I treated her, you know, as a person, and we will often have conversations around her interests. I would go out of my way as well to help and to serve in her life. For me, it's never looking at it as this is the grandmother, she must take care of the kids, she must do this is expected, or anything like that. There is sort of like a mutual understanding. I don't just take, but I make sure that I give. So I would suggest things like, you know what, go have coffee with your mother-in-law, where you don't talk about the kids, where you don't talk about, oh, I need to do this, or can you help with that, or anything like that. Like, get to know your mother-in-law as a person.
That's wonderful advice, Tess. And I just want to give a shout out to Doreen Cullis, who's just asking us so many questions and also saying it's the family of God to love one another. And Naomi was blessed also by Ruth. And Shona Petsa was just saying, me too, Tess. I have a fantastic mother-in-law. And a lot of women are just saying, thank you for the honesty from all the ladies on the panel. So from the women on the panel, are there any questions that you would like to ask Tess about her relationship with her mother-in-law, or how to improve that relationship, how to make it work, really? Let's give them a moment to put their mics on. I'm waiting for Pastor Marianne to say something.
Me too.
Where is she now? No, thank you, Tess. That was a wonderful testimony of just building relationship. And right now, I just want to thank all the ladies. Justin's the one managing everything behind the scenes. Justin, can we have all the ladies on right now on the screen so that we can just from Facebook, if you can just comment on our Facebook. We've been getting so much feedback. We had hearts, and just Charlene Rodemeyer and Heather were greeting Pastor Marianne when she was speaking, and we had Doreen Cullis, and we had somebody actually saying, thank you, Pastor Mariana, because they're facing the same situation. And that was Sunavoya. Thank you, Sunavoya, for your feedback there. And Yolandi Barty saying, thank you, ladies, for being real. So, ladies, we have all the ladies on the screen right now. If you have any questions you would like to pose on Facebook, or if you have any questions for anybody on the panel, ladies on the panel, if you have any questions right now, you can ask now. Otherwise, we are going to say goodbye. We're going to greet the women watching, and also everybody who's watching right now, and thank them for tuning in tonight. Pastor Mariana, would you like to say something before we close?
I want to honor my panel tonight, the panel that's here. I want to say to you, all of you make me so proud as a mom, because I'm a mom. I'm your mom. Sometimes I'm not your mom. I'm your great-grand, your whatever it is. But I want to say to all of you, you are amazing. But I also want to say to the women out there, you've been through a really hard time. At this time, it's been a challenging season, but I want to give a big shout out to women that have faced a giant that nobody has ever faced before. None, your mom couldn't teach you about lockdown. Your grandmother couldn't teach you about that lockdown. Maybe your great-grandmother, they never even had lockdown, they just had the sickness. So we are the first generation to face a new thing. And I want you to actually write down the lessons that you've learned. Because I think we're all learning lessons in lockdown that are so valuable to pass on to our children and our grandchildren. I read the most interesting thing that was just sent around. It was like a grandfather telling his grandson about this season, this lockdown. And it was like a fairy tale almost. And this child was saying, just tell me again. Tell me again. Do you know what some of you are going to be telling the generation that's yet to be born, the generation that are babies today, what it's like to go through this season? You see, in every season, there's a learning curve. In every season, there are lessons to be learned. In every season, there's a growth opportunity. See what the season you're in and start to write down the lessons you've learned in this season. Because, you know, when lockdown stops, our memories are short and we forget the lessons we learned in this season. How we learned to cope, how we learned to suddenly become housewives when we hadn't been that before, tutors to our children, a multi-dimensional working from home, managing a house, managing children. There are stresses that have never, ever been faced before by any generation before you. And so my honest thing is, well done, ladies. You are just doing the most amazing job, businesswoman, in the middle of all of this. And can I just speak blessing over you, over our congregation, over our listeners out there? I want to say to you, the Lord bless you. The Lord keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you. May the Lord be gracious to you and your generations, to 1,000 generations. And I speak peace into your home, peace into your heart, peace into your memories, peace that when you wake up, when you go to sleep tonight, there's going to be peace because you know that there's a big God and he's in charge and he's got this whole world in his hands and he's not surprised at anything. In the middle of God, of this all, is God speaking order into the chaos. See him do it. God bless you and thank you for the privilege of being with you tonight.
All right, so that's us. Thank you so much for joining us. We unfortunately can't take any more questions at this stage. Thank you for tuning into this service. Enjoy the rest of your Mother's Day. Good night, everybody.
Good night.